That one. All right. Chairman Craig,
Present.
Vice Chairman Choma,
Present.
Member Anselmi Dalton, Commissioner Glick,
Here.
Commissioner Hosey,
Here.
Commissioner Cayley,
Here.
Commissioner Cott,
Here.
Commissioner Lawson,
Here.
Commissioner Vore,
Here.
Commissioner Pence. Sir, you have a quorum and everybody's here.
Thank you, Calvin.
Everybody's here.
Everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the November meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So agenda item number 5 would be the review of public hearings as in every year. Those projects that haven't had public hearings as part of the planning studies, we go out and do a little tour around the state, provide any or accept any public comment, bring it back to you. So that was done from December 8th through the 10th this year. I think we completed it on 12 projects. I'm on page 33 of the e-notebook. And we had a range of no comments at all to several favorable comments to just kind of general questions and answers and observations and things like that. So overall, the public hearings went well. Nothing major to report besides some support for the projects, and be happy to answer any questions you guys might have on that.
Are there any questions for the director? Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, moving forward then, if you recall at the November meeting, there were a handful of projects that we tabled the recommendations on. So we're going to revisit those briefly here. The outcomes of the recommendations that we have in front of you today, and we're on page 36 for our first one here, will be what is reflected in the omnibus construction bill. So I'm going to hand it over to Bill to talk through these, and feel free to stop us anytime you want to ask questions.
Welcome, Bill.
Chairman, Commission, Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction. I'm just going to go through a few of these recommendations that got tabled. The first one is an amendment to the Deaver Irrigation District Rehabilitation 2022 project. We had pretty much discussed this and I think got to the point where we agreed to allow the district to remove the upper portion of the project to complete the project within budget. But then we moved into the new 2026 project that was going to replace that portion with a materials only grant. But we never actually closed this out and made a motion to accept that idea of modifying the project. So I just want to make sure that we went ahead and had a motion to accept modifying this project to eliminate the upper portion to complete the project within the budget we have.
Any questions for Bill?
Bill, when I read this, I didn't quite understand. A budget was for the whole project with the upper thing, and we decided to skip the upper thing. Did we change the budget any? I mean, because when we appropriate or when we give money for those, if it's the whole project and some of it's taken off, was there less money?
We should revert some money at the end of this. We have not adjusted the budget at this point, but based on the budget we have right now, we should revert at the end of the project.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Pence, I think the original bid for the project came in high, so they weren't able to award the entire length of pipeline. So that's why the initial 2022 project is being shrunk down or modified to fit within the funding that they had for that. And then whatever is remaining, that upper portion, then the district's going to take that on as 100% materials only, if that helps answer that at all.
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion to accept the office recommendation.
I so move to accept the office's recommendation.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, so Chairman Commission, the second project coming up is that new 2026 project for Deaver Irrigation District. Jerry Dart is here to answer any questions if needed. But essentially this is the one we did discuss a little bit at the November meeting. We're looking at taking that upper portion, and it's a low pressure portion of the pipeline, and the district will do it as materials only project. The district has done multiple projects as materials only. They do good construction work. We've been always very happy with the work they do. So basically, we're looking at a materials grant of $135,325. The district would do all the labor, cover all the engineering costs, materials testing, et cetera. If you look at that, it looks like it's a little off. Now we're doing mostly 50-50 grants. This would be a 60.6% grant. However, the engineer's estimate is if we had gone out and completed this portion of the work with the contractor, this would have been about $315,000 to $360,000 worth of work, which means our share would have been somewhere in 38 to 43% of the cost. So these materials only projects save the state a lot of money. So even knowing it looks, maybe we're a little off that 50-50 match, it's still saving the state money from doing this as a bid out project. And this portion of the pipeline is well within, I believe, and Jerry believes well within the district's capability.
Thank you for the explanation. Bill, any questions for Bill or Jerry? No questions? We have a motion to accept the office's recommendation.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Chair, I would move that we accept the materials only amount of $325 for the Deaver IID Rehabilitation Phase 2 project.
Can we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton, second by Commissioner Glick. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for driving down.
Okay, the next project in front of you is going to be another fairly quick project. It's the Elk Water Users Irrigation District Roan Wash Spill Rehabilitation 2026 project. This project, there was some concern with the loan documents for this project. This is, if you remember, this is a project where the district that has the structure within their area is responsible for 3/11 of the project cost for anything that's in the shared canal, and the Lovell Irrigation District, which is downstream from them, is responsible for 8/11 of the costs. However, in the original application, only the Elk Water Users was shown as the sponsor, and there was concern whether or not they had the capability to carry a loan for this project. Even though the Lovell Irrigation District had been in full support of the project and that they would be covering part of the loan, it was decided that we probably should have this as a co-share or co-sponsorship project. So we went back, Lovell Irrigation District submitted a separate resolution that clarified that they would be a co-sponsor on the project and also a co-signer on the loan for this project. And that's essentially the only thing that changed from November till now, is that we officially have Lovell Irrigation District as a co-sponsor of this project. So it just asks for a favorable acceptance of this recommendation.
Any questions for Bill or the director? Yes. Hearing none, can we have a motion to accept the office's recommendation? Commissioner Anselmi Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to approve the WWD office recommendation that the project be funded with the EWID and LID acting as co-sponsors for the project.
You have a second? Motion made by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton, second by Commissioner Lawson. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
So Chairman, Commission, the next project that was tabled at November meeting, and I'll point out that this is on page 52 of the notebook. So basically, during the application for this project amendment, the office had quite a few questions, and those questions continued through the November meeting. So ultimately, this recommendation was tabled. After it was tabled, the district agreed that they really needed to get some more information before moving forward on this project. So they withdrew their request for an amendment at this point in time. And when they get a little farther down the road on this project, they may or may not come back and ask for an amendment to it. So at this point, this project has been withdrawn.
Do we need to take action on this? I don't believe we do. Okay, thank you.
Just okay. And then the last project probably has a little more discussion, and this project is on page 53 of the notebook. And this is the Tillard Canal Rehabilitation and Pump Station 2026 project. I don't know if you remember, we talked about this project. It has they're pumps that they actually move into the river with flexible pipe, and they move it into the river or pull them out of the river, depending on what the water level is, and then run flexible pipes up to the canal to fill the canal. It's a pretty small district. They meet the acreage requirements, but they have very few people involved in the district. And any loan on this was going to be tight for them. And our original recommendation was do not fund because we did not feel they could carry a 50% loan on the pre-construction. And we definitely didn't feel they could carry a loan on the construction portion. It was questioned because we do have allowances within the program for financially distressed districts, which allows us to go up to 75% grant, 25% loan. So we went back to the district and discussed it with them. They felt they were capable, and we felt they were capable of carrying a 25% loan on the pre-construction amount to move this project forward. However, they are going to need to go out and search for other funding mechanisms to do the construction work once we get there, because they're not going to be able to carry much of a loan on the construction work. But they do have enough money set aside. They have increased their assessments. They can meet the financial responsibility of making a 25% loan. So we're representing this as a 75% grant, 25% loan on a pre-construction project only. If you want more information on it, I can dig back through on this, but that's the most of it.
Are there any questions?
Chairman,
Commissioner Pence?
pre-construction, what are the dollar amount? I'm scrolling back and forth really
Okay.
fast here. I see that they've raised their assessments, which is, I think, appropriate. But how much money for the loan and for the grant?
The actual grant for pre-construction would be $54,825. The actual loan would be $18,275. That works out, and this would be on a 10-year loan. That works out to an annual payment of approximately $2,250. So if you look in their assessments, they have set aside about $2,700 to make loan payments, which is plenty to cover this $2,250 loan payment, annual loan payment. However, like I said, they will likely have to raise assessments some more and look for some federal funding, et cetera, to complete the construction on this project.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Not, is Commissioner Vore? Is that
Thank you,
correct?
sir. Question for the staff. What does having the funding for this pre-construction portion, how does that advance then this project to move significantly forward toward construction?
So this would allow them, this would be the design of the project. Any easement acquisition they need for the project, which I don't believe there's much, but just in case there is any, covering their title opinion and getting all the documents ready for bidding and including bidding if they get advanced to construction. So that's what's in the budget for pre-construction, is basically everything up to and including bidding the project.
Thank you. One other question, Mr. Chair. If they have struggled up to this point to meet the minimum amount of funding that it takes to do the design, how is there confidence in them they're being able to meet the financial requirements of actually doing the construction?
And Chairman, through you,
Bill?
and as we said, they will need to find federal funding to match. We have multiple irrigation districts out there that end up with 100% grant between us and other programs. That's essentially what they're going to have to look for, is they're going to have to look at getting this essentially 100% grant through a combination of us and other agencies. We do not see that they're going to be able to carry much of a loan at all if they don't find other funding sources.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions. Commissioner Vore, is that satisfactory?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Kaylee?
Bill, how many people are affected by this? Did I read that there was less than 10 or around 10?
I think 11, Jason thinks 12. It's right in that. We're a little over 1,000 acres total, but it's only a few landowners involved here. So it's not a lot of people to spread the cost out to.
But all of them are on 100% on board?
Yes. At this point, they are willing to do the work to get this project finished and go out and find other funding.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept the office's recommendation?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner
I would like to make a motion to accept the office's recommendation.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cott, second by Commissioner Glick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Director?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next agenda items, the UW Water Research proposals for 2026. Unfortunately, Greg Kerr is a little under the weather today, so Commissioner Cott has agreed to present this for us since he's been involved in that selection process the whole time.
Thank you, Director. Just a word of caution, Commissioner Cott told us last night that he didn't have a whole lot of answers, so we have to be really, our questions
Well,
to be very, very
yeah.
kind and keep them simple.
Mr. Chairman, I reserve the right to phone a friend. So with that, it's unfortunate that Director Kerr cannot be here to present this important part of our work, and that's the review of the projects selected by us and the Water Research Program Advisory Committee. I first want to go over, just to remind ourselves of the purpose of this program, a little bit about the process, and my remarks are going to focus on the two projects that we selected. There were 6 projects reviewed by the committee and as a whole, And, but two were selected, and if there's questions about those other ones, we can discuss them. So the water research program its purpose is to support and coordinate research relative to important water resource problems in the state. To support the training of scientists, this is through the university. Professors and students are heavily involved. And then to disseminate and utilize that research in the state. So there's really three purposes there. This is an annual program, and the funds that we allocate are matched by the University of Wyoming. Like I said, there were 6 projects. The total proposed budget is $374,997. And so that would be matched by the University of Wyoming if this is all approved. So how does this process work? There's first a solicitation for those projects from the spring into the fall. We're a part of that. Director Kerr comes to our meetings and updates us frequently. And then those projects are reviewed. And we have reviewed those and through our binders, and they're discussed at our meetings, and they're reviewed in depth by a special advisory committee. And that, just to go a little bit into the depth of that advisory committee, this is a very scientific, there's lots of scientists on this this panel that are very go into great depth in their review. This ranges from DEQ, Department of Ag, USGS, Wyoming Geological Survey, Game and Fish. Of course, Director Kerr, Jody Pring was the outreach coordinator for them, and of course, Mabel Jones from the Water Development Office. There's 20 outside peer reviewers, all very qualified people. So, I mean, the point there is, there's some serious review that goes into these projects. So I believe we met in November, and we selected 2 projects to be funded. One is Proposal A, the understanding and responding to future change and hydrologic variability in Wyoming's watersheds. And this was proposed by the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences and the Department of Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Wyoming. One is, this project recognizes that there is global warming, global climate change. In Wyoming, that's not so much going to be a temperature change, but rather a potential change in water availability. So this is looking at watersheds and trying to model, as our climate changes, how are these watersheds going to change? And one of the comments they made is that there's going to be a transition from a snow-dominated to a rain-dominated mountain precipitation. That's expected with global warming, but this change will occur later in Wyoming than elsewhere. So we'll be getting in the future more rain than snow. And so what does this mean for our seasonal snowpack and the meltwaters that come from that? So in this project, they tend to we aim to they aim to quantify this long-term change on spring and summer stream flows over the next few decades. They'll look at changing probabilities for flooding due to rapid snowmelt and probabilities of drought. They'll look at this on a statewide basis. This is more of a broad scale thing. They hope that it can be applied on more a localized level. The review committee saw this as one of the potential problems is, how do you take something so broad and apply it locally? But they felt that it could be done if there's good coordination with the Water Development Office, State Engineer's Office, conservation districts early on in this research, so they can fine tune that to be potentially applicable on a more localized scale. So this project, they're asking for $194,665, and university match would be $143,803. So that was actually, I believe, the number one proposal that was selected. The experts in the review were very thought this was a very well put together project. Well, it was second. I'm sorry, it was second. It's listed as A, but it's really B. So, okay. Any questions on this project? I'm open for questions from.
I got a question.
Yes.
Mr. Glick.
With this project, is it gonna assist us with like tracking the water for the Green River water pact?
I
Water
believe
compact?
I believe so. One of the things that was in the more detailed report was actually be able to attract inflow to reservoirs, and and made it. And is hope that it can be used on a more localized level, but certainly on a region-wide watershed type of thing, like the Green River Basin, the Bighorn Basin. I think these are the kinds of watersheds that we're looking at, and try to, use good data to kind of project what those, the water characteristics of those areas will be.
Okay, and then this kind of ties into the next one, checking that groundwater, because I know them waters, when they flow down the river, it doesn't all stay in that localized area. It actually permeates down into the ground, and then that's how it replenishes groundwater. And I know we lose a lot of water on certain areas, and then there's some areas where that return flow comes in, and man, there's a lot of water kicking back into the river, but we can't track where it comes from, where it goes in and out in a long stretch.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Glick, I think that I'm not for sure that they're going to actually track groundwater, but they've already done quite a bit of work, and I just want to read this. They have conducted a series of high fidelity, fine resolution numerical simulations of regional climate coupled with land, surface, seasonal snowpack, and watershed hydrology for all of Wyoming. The spatial resolution of these simulations is unprecedented. So I think it was because of this high quality data that they already have that they could put this into a model and begin to look at, different climate scenarios for Wyoming and do some projections that will help water managers in these broader basins make decisions.
One follow-up. This is more of a statement. I noticed in the past few years, we've been really going through a drought. And then if you go up there to the Wind River Basin, we're really dry. We haven't even had no snow yet. So I know there's a lot of things coming that'll change. And I'm sure there's years that will just get pummeled with snow. And then there's probably years that we won't get none like to this year. I think it's going to shift once in a while. Myself, I'm not no scientist, but I watch the patterns all the time. I think it's going to shift where some years we'll get too much snow and then some we won't get none. So, if this research can help us to better understand when to save when we need to, like maybe prepare for getting more storage for our areas, and then being able to utilize that storage when there's dry years to stretch out the water, or if there's real wet years, we can use that to control the streams and the rivers from washing people out, or floods kind of control the weather that way. I mean, the water. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Clark, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I think your comments, Commissioner Glick, are right on, and that's why you should stay on this commission.
Yes.
If I can go on to the next,
Commissioner Todd,
go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is this a 2-year study?
I believe it's 3 years.
3 years?
3 years. 3-year study, $194,000 roughly.
I'm definitely in favor of a study of this nature. However, it's 3 years isn't long enough to really be able to track weather patterns and the kind of things they're trying to accomplish. But obviously logistically, that's not possible, but that's just an observation. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner
Mr.
Peck?
Chairman. I see that, we're going to kick in, UW's going to kick in. What will happen if their budget is cut, UW's budget's cut? Do we have to kick more in, or will this project just go away? Because I've been hearing rumblings.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask if Barry is online. Barry's joining us virtually today. If he has any thoughts on that.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Relative to that, obviously, we've heard about the potential cuts to the university, but my understanding on these projects, this money that's identified from the university would be from the various professors and so forth, and their time and matching time and other funds that they would have to match against these projects. And so that's why there's always a university match. A lot of it is faculty time and so forth. So we could certainly follow up with Mr. Kerr if he thought there'd be any ramifications, but I don't believe so.
Thank you, Barry. Any other questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for you, Director Mead, I just am curious, how do we determine the match amounts? Because they're like 57%, 58%. It's not like 50-50. And was just curious. I should know, but I don't.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and Selmy Dalton, I'm going to pass that off to Barry again. He's much more familiar with this.
Barry,
I'm
you're
sorry,
up.
could you restate the question?
Thanks, Barry. Sorry. I was just asking, for example, if you take the amounts, the 338,468 divided by the 194,665 that we're funding, it's 57%, and the next project is 58%. So it's not a 50-50 match. I'm just trying to understand, how do we determine how much we're putting in versus the University of Wyoming, since it's obviously not 50-50.
Correct. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, historically, our part of this is usually 2/3 to 1/3 match USGS funds and our matching. For more details on that, I see that these particular ones are not quite that. You've illuminated the different dollar amounts, but that's a question we'd have to ask Mr. Kerr. But each project's different, but there is a set match that has to go into this, and typically it's 2/3, 1/3.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next project, which is really the first project that the most the highest rated project is entitled it's item B, investigating the sources, spatial variation, and movement of nitrate contamination in the Laramie Aquifer near Laramie, Wyoming. And what this project hopes to do is to use isotopes to differentiate in the groundwater between natural sources of nitrates and man-made sources of nitrates, more or less nitrate pollution. And then using that information to advise managers on like Laramie County or Albany County and the city of Laramie on land use decisions. And the city of Laramie has a Casper Aquifer Protection Plan. So they're active in this right now. And so this would help out. But this is just not a Albany County or Laramie type of project. There's other counties in the state that are facing nitrate issues, and Lincoln County, Fremont County, and Teton County. They're all involved with aquifer protection in regards to nitrates, and probably all counties should be. And as our surface water resources diminish in some of our basins, reliance on groundwater is going to become more and more important. So understanding how chemicals move through groundwater and how we can plan for those different types of chemicals is very important. And this study kind of focuses on that. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Any questions for Mark? Commissioner Pitts?
Mark, I had told you last night that I wasn't going to ask a real tough question, but this is it's something I need to figure out. How do we differentiate between natural land and man-made end? I mean, how do these isotopes figure out which one's man-made and which is natural?
And that's exactly the purpose of the study. So, and I'm going to say the answer to that is yes. And I think it's by the different types of isotopes that they look at the water. This is stretching my, I'm about to call a friend. And any answer that I give to this is going to be semi-made up. But yes, the answer is with isotopes and how they can connect that to different chemistry in the groundwater. And I wish I had a more in-depth answer on that. What impressed me with this study was how they were already working with Albany County and the city of Laramie and thinking about how this can be applied to land use planning on the surface. Because, if one of your major sources of water is groundwater, the quality of that groundwater is important, and how to understand to protect that is very important. And this study, it goes in that direction. That's why I supported this project, and that there's going to be more and more demand on groundwater across the state, I think. And we need to have tools in our box to understand what's happening.
Commissioner Glick?
When this talks about nitrates, natural and man-made, the man-made part, is that like fertilizers? Is that what that's looking at?
It could be fertilizer, it could be septic tanks, it could be any number of sources, I believe,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like the natural ones, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can tell the difference. It's like those guys do down there in New Mexico. They can tell the different arsenic, if it's natural or if it's man-made. They got ways of figuring it out. It's just, I don't know if there's nothing you can do about natural.
One of the things is to look at the departments that are involved in this study is the Department of Engineering, Physical Science, Geology and Geophysics, Agriculture, Life Sciences, Botany, and the Department of Energy and Petroleum Engineering. So, I mean, these are folks that are used to looking underground and figuring things out. And I think there's a very good, and that was another strength of this project. This is the second year this project has come before us. And it was tabled last year because they felt the committee felt there needed to be some more work and more refinement on their methods. They did that, and they came back, and I think this and of course that satisfied the committee.
Any other questions for Commissioner Cog? I believe these are the two that are.
Those are the two. Now there's other projects, and I'm just going to mention the topics. There's an irrigation and nutrient recycling project. There was two cyanobacteria projects, and then there was a mine wastewater project looking at the chemistry of that for maybe rare earths, that type of thing. So those are the projects, and I could I'm prepared to, you know, answer questions about those too, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Mark about the other proposals? So the recommendations for funding are the ones you spoke in depth on at this
Right.
point.
Would be the region-wide modeling aquifer or watershed modeling program, and this using isotopes to track natural and man-made nitrates in the Casper aquifer for the city of Laramie and Albany County.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. The total funding for the two would be $374,997.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Okay, Director Mead and maybe Barry, the question I have is, we could approve this funding, but then does Select Water also approve this funding tomorrow, right?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
And the question I have is, they're really not the first proposal, which was ranked second, I think, but that you went over has to do with climate change. And I just wonder how the legislature is feeling about things where they don't necessarily believe that there are such things as climate change. I'm just wondering what happens if they say no.
Mr. Chairman, the Select Water Committee is kind of the ultimate authority on either approving or denying one of these projects. So if they disagree with your recommendations today, then they will change them. And we've seen that in the past on several occasions. I would, you know, it does deal with climate variability, I suppose, and it ends up being a tool to understand which watersheds are more susceptible maybe than others to some of these things that we potentially could see and how to plan ahead and different things like that. So it's not strictly trying to prove, you know, climate change or this or that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hosey, I believe.
yes, this is just a statement of opinion, but the climate variability and the related changes to the watersheds, I struggle to understand how you can argue with that. And it's probably the biggest issue Wyoming faces in the water world as the Green River watershed. So understanding that better, absolutely, we have to support that. Now, if Select Water changes and does something else, that's their deal, but I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Commissioner Hosey. Commissioner Glick, I believe you have a comment.
Nope, sorry. You know, I used to work for, just tell you a story. I used to work for, the Bureau of Indian Affairs irrigation districts. And, I used to be kind of like the water master, I guess. I used to be the supervisor irrigation. Anyway, I started, you know, back in the working with water when I was younger, but then about 2000, I got a job with the BIA and I was running their irrigation. I noticed over the time, you know, because our spring runoff used to be sometimes, you know, later on in the end of June. And a lot of times it was the same time we always had our powwow because it was the third weekend in June, and I remember everybody hated it because you had to go watch the dam and we missed the powwow and all the rodeos and stuff because you had to stay up there and watch the dam because of the runoff. Nowadays, you know, the spring runoff has moved closer and closer towards the beginning of the year. You know, like sometimes right at the end of May, you know, sometimes the 1st of May, you know, and it's not even in June anymore. But I know a lot of times it's closer towards the end of April, 1st of May nowadays, you know, and with that change from one time to the other is our water comes off faster and we have less to store, so we run out of water faster. Now, back when it used to be in June, at the end of June, we'd have all that water up to June, and that's when it peaked. And then we'd stretch it out into October. But I noticed that doesn't happen anymore. And if you guys want to look, I mean, go look at, we don't have any snow on the ground in the Wind River Basin. There's zero. And we've had a few flurries, but nothing's ever stuck to the ground. And it's really an odd year. And I think it's just, the way I see how this works is it kind of has a pattern and it moves. Maybe not for the good, but you know, I know a lot of people like it because it feels like summer more nowadays. But then that doesn't do no good during when we really need the water. And I know people don't like the thought of climate change or whatever, you know. And myself, I had a hard time wrapping my head around it, and I still don't understand it completely, you know, and I don't think nobody ever will. But the thing is with it's the weather patterns that are changing. That they always say climate, but it's the weather that always affects the ranchers and the farmers. And right now, this coming season might be pretty detrimental to us because, like I said, we have zero water on the snow on the ground. Just something to think about when we want to, you know, maybe decide on this. A lot of it I see can help us with the Green River water pat situation. The more data we got, the better off we are in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glick. So just to kind of piggyback on what Clinton's talking about, I have been around long enough to see a lot of fluctuations in snow levels, which is what we rely on, particularly where we have storage. I remember in the 90s when water snowpacks for about 6 or 7 years in a row in the Bighorn Basin were pretty low. And the end result of that was the building of the Roach Gulch Dam because they didn't have enough storage and already had 2 reservoirs on that Gribble River. And there were 2 or 3 years where farmers did not plant crops because they didn't have enough snowpack to fill those reservoirs. John Lawson could probably speak to that if he chose to as well. So in my mind, the study is important, but I think the real issue for us is we really need to look at more storage. If it's possible, we should be, and it's so doggone expensive to do it, but we should be building storage. That's my opinion. But with all of that said, are there any other questions or comments for Mark on these? We need to make a decision to move on. Hearing none, do we need a motion for this?
Chairman, I'd like to make the
Commissioner
motion to approve.
I have a motion, have a second.
I would second the funding of the $374,997 for the project proposals A and B.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're on to agenda item number 8, and that's preparation for the 2026 legislature. I will be referring to page 73. That's going to be the omnibus water bill planning. In front of each of the planning bills, we've got a spreadsheet, which is more of a summary of the bill. And I can just real quickly, I'm not sure if that's on page 72 or 73, probably 72 for the planning bill. And this is what you've seen in the past years also. So you've got the first column, which is just the bill page that this particular project is on. Second column is the name of the project and which section it's located in within the bill. Then the location of the study within the state of Wyoming, the appropriation and which account it will be coming from, and then just some very simplified descriptions like it's a master plan or it's a level 2 feasibility study. And then you've got totals at the very bottom of that summary table of the total funding from the planning bill from each one of the accounts. And then the also the construction bill, and both bills have the both planning and construction totals, just so you can see the overall funds being appropriated to projects, whether it be planning or construction this year. Just real quick, since the planning bill is fairly simple, going to run through that. So again, on page 73, laid out exactly like we've seen in the past. Page 1 is just an introduction of the bill. So we're authorizing level 1 and level 2 studies. We're providing appropriations. We have reversion dates for unexpended funds. If you recall, if not all the funding is spent in a particular section, say for account 1, level 1 projects, and it's needed for another account 1, level 1 project in the same bill, it can be used to do that with the approval of the Select Water Committee. And then we've got the appropriations for the Office of Water Programs, which is Greg Kerr and the work he does to get the water research projects in order, and then an effective date. So moving on to page 2, again, section 1 of the bill is just for our level 1 studies under account 1. It references the legislation for account 1. What I just mentioned about being able to move funds from one project to another if needed. We've got the reversion date on all these of 2029, July 1st to 2029. That's very typical. We give ourselves 3 years to complete these planning studies, and we have to provide a report to the legislature each year prior to the, in this case, the 2028 legislative session, and that's our legislative report that we send out every year. So at the bottom of page 2 and spilling onto page 3 are all of our account 1 master plans. We've got the 8 municipal master plans, and then the 1 UW Water Research that's on line, let's see, 4 of page 3, which you guys just approved in the amount of $374,997. So that was a to be determined. So with the UW Water Research Program, the total for account 1, level 1 would be $2,186,997. And of course, you know, these are all the projects we talked about back at the May meeting, mostly, and then had budgets at the November meeting after the consultant selection was completed. So on page 3, that's where we start our level 2 projects in or out of account 1. Those actually spill on to page 4. This year we've got 1 level 2 study. That's the Bedford and Turnerville Regional Supply for $327,000. Then section 3 of the bill on page 4 is our level 1 account 2 or rehabilitation projects. So these would be our master plans in the agricultural sector. And the one project that shows up there is at the top of page 5 on the bill. That's the Shoshone Irrigation District Master Plan for $470,000. Continuing on page 5, then we move into our account 2 level 2 projects, which spills onto page 6. We've got the Casper Alcova Irrigation District lateral rehab and the Wheatland source and transmission evaluations that total $528,000. Then moving on, section 5 on page 6 is the appropriation or the biennial appropriation for the Office of Water Programs for $175,000. So that's for the next 2 years. And then section 6 on that page also on line 18 is where we get into our 1 amendment. And the 1 amendment, if you recall from November, was for the Alkali Creek project and the additional funding for the design of different aspects of the project and getting through the easements and things like that. So on page 8, you'll see the additional funding of $1,575,000 for that project. And there is a 2-year extension of time associated with finishing that work. And then the last thing is section 7 on page 8 on line 20, and that just is the effective date, effective immediately upon completion of all acts necessary for a bill to become law. So I went through that very fast, but you guys are familiar with these bills. Any questions on the planning bill?
All of these have been discussed in detail. That was in May, I believe.
May and then again in
And
November.
in
Yeah.
November. So anyone have any other questions on any of these? And this is really more informational than,
Yep. Just, I think the biggest thing on the planning bill was the fact that you guys approved the water research projects. We put that number in, that changes the total. Otherwise, everything is status quo on what we've discussed previously, and that's what will be taken to the Select Water Committee tomorrow for their hopeful approval. And then once we get it through them, then it'll go into the legislative session in that fashion.
any questions for Director? Okay, hearing none, we can move on.
Okay. We'll move on to then the construction bill. Again, I believe we're on page 81 would be the summary table. Yeah, okay. I'll go over that in just a minute. Let's move on to page 82. Again, going to be real high level. Again, we start off on page 1 of the bill, e-notebook page 82. This is just the introduction again, authorizing construction of designated water projects, describing, specifying terms and conditions, providing grants, loans, appropriations, amending projects, prior projects, transferring funds from account 1 to account 2, transferring a project, which is our Douglas Well that we mentioned back in November. And then if you move on to page 2, that's where so all the construction projects are set up as Title 99 statutes. And so each year, for instance, this year on page 2, line 1, all of our Title 99s for 2026 are going to be 99 33101. So last year's were 3001. The year before that was 2901. And then we've got definitions and references to general conditions and general authorization. And then down at the bottom of page 2, we get into when basically an operation and maintenance account would be required or not required. And we've talked about that in the past too. The only time that would be required of an entity would be if they don't have assessment authority and if they have a loan. So really, it never applies to water development projects because all of our entities, I believe, have that assessment authority. So again, not going to run through the bill page by page. I would put you back on page 81, which is the summary of the bill. Again, I'm not going to go through each column, but we've got a little better description here in the second to last column of each one of these projects. First section would be our new development or account 1 construction projects. We've got 3 projects: Alpine Well, Gillette Red Hills Tank, and LaGrange Well Connection. We've got our cloud seeding program, which again, we will be acquiring funding commitments from other Colorado River Basin water users or other interested parties for a minimum of 100% of the actual project operation costs. So this just provides the authorization to complete that cloud seeding if the funds can be acquired. And then the last one in that section 1 would be the small water projects, and we're putting $1 million in the account 1 small water projects this year. Then moving down to the second section, it's actually section 1 again, but these are the construction projects in account 2 rehab. We've got 17 projects plus our small water rehab account in the amount of $500,000. We've got 3 of our 100% materials only projects. We've got a couple that are pre-construction. You see over in the notes, which is the far right column, if they have a loan, that first one has a loan there. It would provide the term and the interest rate on the loan. You also will see that first one, and I'm looking at Bighorn Canal Irrigation District 5-mile pipeline. In the notes, it says C Note 1. So at the bottom of the page, that's the projects that are contingent upon the transfer of the $16 million from account 1 to account 2. So that shows up there. And then the only other one I would point out, if you recall, we had a request from one of our Select Water Committee members, would be the Newcastle transmission pipeline. And in that far right column, they asked for a special condition that no funds would be granted or maybe expended until the sponsor has allowed water sales outside the city limits. So we've included that as a special condition. Then moving down on the summary page, this would be section 2 of the bill. And these are all of our amendments. We've got 10 amendments this year. All of them except one are for time, and the one that's for additional funding is the Hoback Junction Public Water System 2025. If you recall, last year we gave them pre-construction dollars. They got all their work done. They've got their easements in place, so they're now ready for the level 3 construction dollars. So it's just putting that money in now. And then section 3 of the bill, as I mentioned, is the actual funds transfer, the 16 million from account 1 to account 2, and then the well for Douglas, which I mentioned, that's the Sheep Mountain well number 2 transfer, which if that's approved in the construction bill, then next March we'll have an agreement between us and Douglas in front of you guys to complete that transfer with them. So I think that's really all I wanted to go through. I just remember Lisa and Selmy Dalton in past said, "You're so monotone. I about fell asleep when you went through the bill." So I'm not going to do that anymore. And that was good because that keeps us all moving faster. So if there's anything in particular you want to go through or look at in the bill, we can sure do that.
Thank you, Director.
Yep.
Again, this is informational. Select Water will pick this up tomorrow and
Yep.
maybe make some changes to it if they choose to. I believe that's their options, but
That's right.
anyone have any questions for the Director? Okay, hearing none, we can move on.
And that would require your approval of the planning and construction bills in the form that you see them in your e-notebook. And then that's what will get sent over to the Select Water Committee. So we would be looking for a motion from you on both the planning and the construction bills.
Chairman,
Commissioner Glick,
I'd like to approve the omnibus water bill planning and omnibus water bill construction for this legislative session.
I have a motion. I have a second. Motion made by Commissioner Glick, seconded by Commissioner Kaylee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next agenda item is just a little housekeeping legislative process discussion. I know you guys already know this. I say it every year, but just leading up to the session and during the session, if any of the commissioners get questions from legislators on different projects, just let me know. We want to be on the same page and kind of have a unified voice, as I've mentioned in the past, and want to make sure, whatever information gets provided, that either I know about it or we're providing it, and, keep you guys in the loop. And then also that we avoid any lobbying. We're not supposed to lobby. That's for others to do. And if anything comes up where we're getting policy questions, and we want to obviously involve the governor's office in discussions like that too. So just ask to keep me in the loop if you start having any those conversations. And just a reminder, the planning bill will either be a House bill or a Senate bill, one or the other, and then vice versa on the construction bill. Once those get introduced, they get assigned to the Ag Committee. So if it's a House bill, it gets assigned to the House Agricultural Committee. Goes there, we show up, we present the bill similar to what I just presented to answer questions. Then that goes back to the actual full, say in this case, House. It then gets assigned to the the Appropriations Committee in the same House. So then they consider the funding in it. And then if it passes that, we again show up to those meetings as well. Then it goes back to the full body for 3 readings and then passed over to the opposite side. So if it's a House bill, then it'd go over to the Senate and go through the same process. So I will do my best to kind of keep you guys in the loop as I've done in the past. Maybe when we get into it a ways and see how things are going, I'll send out an email and give you guys an update. So, and feel free to always reach out if you have any questions or hear something that comes up. Be happy to share our experiences with you guys as much as we can. So that's all for the legislative process discussion. Any questions for that?
Any questions for the Director regarding that? None? I think we can move on.
Okay, I'd ask Bill to come back up here. We've got a sponsors contingency account request, and we are on page 144, I believe. And the sponsor is here in person. I guess.
Chairman Commission, Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction again.
Bill, I have the sponsors representatives here.
Thank you.
Nice.
Do I stand or sit?
Yeah, either way.
Well, I prefer to stand if it's all right with my name is Clifford Reed. I'm the mayor in Dayton. Been mayor for 3 years, council for 6. We've been told that, I might be coming down here and Dave might be coming down here just to hear ourselves talk. I hope that's not the case. I want to try to let you know that how much I appreciate your time today. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you do for small little towns like Dayton. It's about 850 people. And this water project that we've taken on over the last couple of years has kind of evolved into, we're originally with the DW, the drinking water SRF, we were told we were going to get a 67% grant. It's been reduced to 50. The town of Dayton, over my history as being mayor and the prior mayors, has done a very good job. And that's what I'm going to try to convince you of today, is that the town of Dayton takes very good care of the money that is given. I'm a self-employed man, been self-employed for 45 years. And I bring that thought process to the council, to the town, to the citizens of Dayton. And we don't take the money that is given to us through cap tax or anything like that and build. We have a swimming pool, but it was built 45 years ago. But we don't take money that is given to us lightly. We don't use it for something that we don't need. It is used, for that we don't need it. We use it for the needs in town, not the wants. We don't use it for wants. We don't build walk paths. We don't build businesses that compete with private enterprise in the town of Dayton.
Clifford, could I interrupt you?
Yes.
Clifford, appreciate your sentiment. I'd like, maybe let's
Okay.
stick with what what the topic at hand here, if we could.
Forgive me
please.
for that going on. I just wanted to establish.
Understand.
So we're looking at trying to get an additional 84,000. Originally, Larry Mallow told us that we're getting 200,000 from you guys. The bid went over on the pipe, on the infiltration gallery pipe, for various reasons. We originally had designed a 12-inch pipe. We're going to a 24-inch pipe now, and the cost went up for the bigger pipe, more aggregate. But we feel like even though the overall bid came in less than the engineer's estimate, I'm asking you, and Larry Mallow said that he would support such a thing. You guys are maybe not. I'm hoping you just choose to support our request for the additional 80. It went over bid by 874,000. We're asking that the commission consider giving the town of Dayton $84,000 more over the 200,000. So it'd be 284 in total. We're asking that because every dollar that we can get, we can use somewhere else, and we need it. We had a flash flood last spring because of the elk fire in Dayton, right up out our back door, something that's never happened. And so I'm asking that you consider that, because our little town is faced with other stuff that was unforeseen just a year ago. And so we're looking at possibly bridges, but this money we're asking for is going for a project that we have to do. This project is, I don't know if you've all seen pictures of our infiltration tank. It's in bad shape. It has JB Weld on a lot of the pipe fittings and stuff. So we're asking that the commission consider giving the town the extra money that this bid went over.
Okay, thank you. I believe you have another person with you. Could
Yep,
you
this is
allow him to
Dave
introduce
Ingles,
himself?
our town engineer. If you've got any questions for me or him, I'd entertain such
Okay,
questions.
Thank you. Bill, I'd like to go ahead and present the proposal.
Again, Chairman, Commission, Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction. We received this request for sponsors contingency funds and it's been reviewed. I would agree that the request for sponsors contingency funds that came in was for $83,455. However, that included some engineering that was in excess of the eligible amount of engineering that we allow for these projects. So by removing that and just looking at the cost increase, we are looking at a cost share of $79,500 to be potentially eligible. Our biggest concern on this project moving forward, not saying that any of this was not reasonable work or anything else, it's the original request came in. We felt it was a little low and requested several times to look at that and whether or not that was appropriate. We did increase the recommendation that came forward in 2024 slightly from what was requested. We increased about 16,000, so not a lot, but what we're seeing on this one is a lot of the cost increase are related to things that were added after the original application came in. And I would say this would normally be expected to come in as an amendment to the project because there was considerable changes to the project. As mentioned, it was decided to go from a 12-inch stainless steel screening to a 24-inch HDPE for availability. While that may have saved some costs on materials, it looks like it may have increased costs on construction. We're not sure exactly why, but costs went up quite a bit related to that. Also, gabions were added into the structure, which were not part of the original project, and the rock to go with those gabions. And additionally, construction quality control was added, which was not in the original request. So like I say, I would normally expect this to come through as an amendment to the project. I can appreciate the town had requested not to do an amendment because they didn't want to delay the project and wanted to keep the project moving forward. However, I'm just not sure this is the proper place for sponsors contingency funds. Also, prior to the bid, the town had made a statement that they could afford the project based on the engineer's estimate. The actual bid that came in overall for this overall project was lower the engineer's estimate. So there is a cost reduction there. The portion that's eligible did go up above what the engineer's estimate was. Like I said, it's generally this would normally have came through as a project amendment for the amount of changes that happened within this project from the request to what was actually bid. So that's essentially the reasoning for saying this is not a sponsor's contingency project.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to, again, looking on the actual recommendation we put together on the bottom of that page, there's a table if everybody's looking at that. And really, there were three bid packages to this project. The infiltration gallery, as Bill mentioned, was what was eligible for the water development program. And that's where we were saying that's a $400,000 project and, grant of 50% or 200,000. And then the other portions of the bid package were the water treatment plant, as well as the instrumentation and control. So if you see the engineer's estimate prior to bid was the $2,443,000, bottom of column 3. The low bid came in less than that. You can see the differences in each bid package in that far right column, that yes, the infiltration gallery came in higher, but the other two balanced out to where overall the project cost was $35,000 less than the engineer's estimate. And when I heard about this request, again, understand the situation of Dayton, but also understanding, I guess, the condition of our funding and the fact that we need to spread it as far as we can. My thought was if this was an affordable project going into the bids, according to the sponsors being willing to put additional funds forward, and it actually came in less than what was anticipated, it should be an affordable project after the bids came in. So, yes, some of them are drinking water state revolving funds, but essentially it's all state funds. and just trying to be conservative with our funding. That's why we have the recommendation we do.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions for Bill or the Director? Any questions for the sponsors' representatives? Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Vore, I believe.
thank you, sir. I'm sitting here trying to think about, excuse me, about some of the issues that are facing some of our smaller towns in where I'm from, and am wondering if someone could address how prevalent this kind of issue is going to be repeated across the state as we go through this escalation of costs and all of the things that are associated with the fact that these communities are having less money to deal with. And is this something that we're just going to be needing to deal with, or more so in the future?
Director or Bill, would either of you like to address that?
I'll try to address that, Chairman, Commission. And we have been seeing, I was in front of you quite a bit post-COVID with a lot of these inflated projects that we did cover with sponsors contingency. However, I would remind you that this was based on a 23 cost estimate. A lot of the ones we were seeing post-COVID were 2019, 2020, maybe some early 2021 estimates when we had considerable inflation after those estimates were put together. This estimate was basically a 2023 estimate escalated to 2025 costs. So it was bid in the timeline that we expected this project to be bid. So from what I'm seeing, this is a 40% increase. We have not been seeing 40% cost increases on most of our projects from 2023, 2024 timeframe. And like I said, most of what I'm seeing here was change from the original request to the current request of things that were updated and changed. And I'm not saying that's inappropriate. I'm just saying I'm not sure sponsors contingency is the place to cover those changes.
Thank you. Director Vore, is that satisfactory?
We'll leave it at that.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Commissioner Commissioner Inslee Dalton.
And I was just going to ask Dave or Clifford, Mayor if they want to just address, do they have the funding to do this? I mean, can they sort of counter what, just so we have something from your side as well, we'd just like to hear what you say about the 79,500 and if you have the funding available.
Well, yes, but we could possibly be looking at raising our water rates again. We do that every January. We raise our water rates 5% to try to offset stuff like this, increased costs. So we just got done raising our water rates 5% in December. And so we are looking at, to cover this extra money, we are looking at raising our water rates because we're looking at, $600,000 or $800,000 that we don't have. We're looking at raising our water rates for our constituents up to $7 a month. And half of Dayton is on a fixed income. A lot of Dayton folks are older people, but as the council, we are trying to do the best we can to cover our costs, to take care of ourselves, if you will. But so the extra $80,000 will have to come out of cap tax or raising our rates. And it's a challenge, obviously. You're dealing with higher requests and less money. And if Dave has anything to add to that, well,
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm Dave Ingalls. I'm with Engineering Associates and yes, Again, I'm Dave Ingalls with Engineering Associates. And just to make sure again, and as Bill reiterated, if you say no to the request today, it does not mean the project does not move forward. It does move forward. But with that said, a couple items for you to know again is that, again, the town is contributing almost $700,000 of its accumulated capital facilities tax that is set aside year after year after year in anticipation of this project. Almost more than 3 times the amount that the Water Development Commission has committed to the project. And as Bill said, the dilemma that happened was the master plan that was performed in 2023 for this infiltration gallery showed a 12-inch pipe to be installed. Well, being an engineer, we're always kind of changing things, and this was a master plan study, and a cost estimate was prepared, and the master plans, they're reconnaissance level studies. So maybe the best thing to do in retrospect would have gone from a level 1 study to a level 2 study and study that a little bit more exactly. But we didn't do that. And so it went directly from level 1 to level 3. And then once we got into final design, it was determined that the 24-inch pipe was required versus the 12. So the question would have been, so do we step back now and request an amendment? No, the decision was made, particularly in the light of inflation and those sort of items, to jump right from level 1 to level 3, and hopefully we can still absorb the cost. So fortunately, again, the bids are such that we can in fact move forward with the project. So again, the capital facilities tax that's being provided by the town, $700,000. In addition, the townspeople, the town has secured a $2 million SRF loan, of which a half will be principal forgiveness. But even with the $1 million loan for a community of 800 people, it's going to mean an additional $7.50 per month per account for the townspeople. So we've got that. And then of course, as state governments got the same issues as local government, in that with the property taxes being cut and the like, they have that much less money to spend. So the mayor is just doing his job and try to, wherever possible, find ways where it can reduce the costs for its citizenry.
Thank you, Commissioner Glick.
Bill, I know you said that this should not be funded with this, because that's not what it's for, the sponsor contingency funds. What fund would this come out of normally?
Generally, if it went through legislation, it would just come out of the regular account 2 funds and not from the sponsor's contingencies separate account.
So if they, another one, if they go back and change this, it would stretch the construction time out for a couple of years. And
Yes, and I believe the suggestion was to come in for an amendment prior to bidding the project. And the town did not want to delay the project by going through another legislative session. So went ahead and bid the project.
okay, Bill, I got one more question for you. And I know you call them amendments, but where I come from, they call them change orders.
Well, change order would be within we put contingency funds in the account
Mm-hmm.
when we bid these, and we have 15% contingency in here. Plus we had inflation to inflate it from 23 numbers to 2025
Okay.
values. So we would do a change order within that budget we had. However, now we need more money. So we have to go back and look at getting more money from one of our accounts. So that's why it's more than just in a change order, because it's not within the funding we had.
Okay. I guess the town can go ahead and pay for it. Is that correct? If we don't pass today. However, I know that that's pretty detrimental to these little towns right now, especially where the funding is. This is a tough one. What do you recommend, Jason?
Mr. Chairman, the recommendation is do not fund, I guess simplistically, and I appreciate not wanting to go back and amend the project through the legislature, because just the fact that you're going to delay the project and inflation and all that stuff. But to my understanding, the town had been setting aside some funds in anticipation of this project. The one thing I heard the mayor mentioned raising rates again, and maybe we could talk about that for a second. My information's a couple years old, but from 2022, when we did a municipal survey, they were paying, I believe it's about $44 per 20,000 gallons, which is pretty low, considering on a statewide basis. But I do know that you guys have increased rates already once. At least from the website, I ran a quick number for 20,000 gallons. I believe it'd be about $56, $57. I don't know if that's totally accurate. For 5,000 gallons, it's $34.31. So, you know, I would say in the area, it's probably in the ballpark. Sheridan's rates are probably a little higher. I don't know about Ranchester's. You know, if you were to compare it to a Cheyenne for 20,000 gallons of water, and Cheyenne's going to cost you $150 instead of, you know, 60. So again, that was another part of my thought process, is where their water rates are comparison to some other municipalities throughout the state, and seems like they're fairly reasonable. So, but again, understanding that fixed income and the population that they have to deal with. So it is a tough one. We're just trying to be conservative with our dollars, and understanding that if they could afford the project going into the bid, and the bids as a whole came in lower, they should be able to afford the project now.
Thank you, Director. Commissioner Kaylee.
Director Mead, what if we funded a lower amount, maybe 50% of that, and then let the citizens pick up the other part of that? Would that be something we could do?
Mr. Chairman, it's your purview to do what you think is right.
Because I appreciate the work that they put into and not going back and causing those type of delays. And I appreciate that they have a lot of skin in the game, but I think it might be appropriate for us to do maybe a 50% fund on that. And then if they were okay with it, then I think that'd be nice. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I understand correctly, with the drinking water SRF, when you guys originally applied, of course, it was 50% from water development, and then more or less with the principal forgiveness, you got 50% more or less grant, I guess, and 50% loan from the drinking water SRF to cover your entire portion. So if the budgets wouldn't have changed, they originally would have only had to pay really 25% of the match for the water development funds. And then of course, obviously the estimates have gone up since then with the engineering and the final bids. So just again, trying to provide information here.
Thank you, Director. Maybe we can discuss a little bit more about the difference between the engineer's estimate and the final bid. So it appears to me that with all the numbers, looking at this chart, that there's still, the total project is still 35,748 less than the engineer's estimate. Is that correct? But the request for the sponsor's contingency is 35 or 74,000?
79.5.
Of the eligible portion of what they requested, half of that would be 79,000. Was it 500? Yeah.
And the primary cause of the cost increase was the difference in the pipe size from 12-inch to 24-inch, which is a significant size increase and volume increase as well. As a 24-inch was determined to be necessary when the original plan showed a 12-inch line. That's a big difference in pipe size. I just wonder if there's an explanation for that size increase from 12 to 24.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'll just read from you the master plan. It might summarize it best. And again, this was the 2023 master plan, which formed the basis for the original application submitted to the Water Development Commission. And again, I'm just reading from the master plan that was prepared, one of the engineers who worked on the master plan. Said the recommended well screen will have a more effective open area when compared to the existing 24-inch. Thus, its required diameter can be reduced to as small as 12-inch diameter with a properly designed slot size and appropriate gravel pack. So here you had one engineer saying, we think you can do it with a 12-inch line versus a 24. Get into final design and no, we need to go with the 24-inch.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Who was the engineer that provided the master plan?
Well, we were, Engineering Associates provided it, but you know, in full disclosure, this portion was written by one of our subconsultants. So I'll take the responsibility, but I did not actually size the line.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Commissioner Cott.
I guess this would be a question to Jason or Bill. So what made the decision to go from a level 1 to a level 3 without a level 2?
That was my next.
Mr. Chairman, you're jogging my memory and it's not going to come back to me. I don't recall specifically. If you have any.
Generally, we received the application requesting to move straight to level 3. So that's what we moved forward with, was based on the application we received.
I would add, you know, if we can jump from a level 1 to a level 3, we're going to do that. Just, you know, we've heard criticism in the past about studying things to death. I don't know that this is a super complicated project when it comes to the infiltration gallery to justify an account or a level 2 study. But would, you know, when those are appropriate, we definitely need them when it's complex, but when it's, you know, putting a ditch into a pipe or something like that, then probably not. This is maybe an in-between situation. Anyway.
Thank you, Director. So I was just comment on that. Everyone kind of remember a level 2 would have also cost money. So going to the level 3, while there may be, in the end, we may spend some contingency fund dollars, it probably would not be any more than having done a level 2 process. So we have a couple things going on here. I think we have a recommendation from the Office of Do Not Fund. We have a proposal from Commissioner Cott, I believe, for maybe a partial fund. I'm sorry, Commissioner Cayley. Do we have anyone willing to make a motion? Commissioner Glick.
I make the motion that we do not fund the 79,500 for the project. However, we can do a 50%, which is approve a 39,750 for the project for Dayton.
Commissioner and Selmy Dalton.
I would second that with the caveat to add that it would be subject to the approval of the Select Water Committee, because I think that's how it has to go unless we're going to stay here for the meeting tomorrow, correct?
Commissioner or Director, I don't believe it is necessary for contingency. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, out of a courtesy, I think we typically will bring these to joint meetings where we have the review and recommendation. It's not the approval, but it's the review and recommendation of the Select Water Committee, both for sponsor contingency funds. And then if you were to proceed forward with adding sponsor contingency funds, then we'll need to write up an amendment to the agreement with Dayton, between the commission and Dayton. So that amendment would be for more than $5,000. So again, the Select Water Committee comes in on that as well for review and recommendation of a contract for greater than $5,000.
Okay, thank you, Director. So believe before we started the meeting this morning, there was some discussion about possibly taking a break at this point. And if we're going to have them, it might be important here that the motion is clarified. If we take 10 minutes, Director, would you be able to work with maybe legal or whoever we need to come up with a motion with the proper language? Okay,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's take 10 minutes. We'll come back at 10:10, 10:15. 10:15. Try to get it fit. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, but after discussion, I believe it might make sense to withdraw that original motion and state and call for a new motion. Commissioner Glick, you made the motion.
I'd like to withdraw the motion.
And I'll withdraw.
Thank you. So after discussion now, I believe there are some other thoughts. Do we have a motion? Or I guess I need to back up. The office's recommendation is do not fund. I believe we need to call for a motion on that recommendation. I believe that's the appropriate way we should proceed.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. And
Commissioner Glick.
this will cover the recommendation. So that we are willing to fund half, but I make the motion to approve $39,750 in contingency funds for the Dayton Water System Rehab 2024 project with the associated contract amendment being subject to review by the Attorney General's office and review and recommendation by the Select Water Committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Glick, seconded by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton. Discussion,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Pence.
I'm going to vote against this. I think it's a bad precedent to set. We are in tougher economic times with our department here. We're less and less funding coming in. The city of Dayton has maintained that they do have the funds to cover this. So we give them another 40 grand. It's for something else that they can use in their town. And I appreciate the way you run your town, sir, but I'm going to vote against it. And I would hope that several more would vote against it. It's where we go with the recommendation from our people.
Is there other discussion? I believe Commissioner Kaylee.
I'm going to go ahead and, as I started with this, go ahead and vote for it. I think the town of Dayton has really showed, even, not going to the second round to save some money and not put things off for another couple of years that would cost this commission more money. I think they've done that, and they've done a good job with that. And I think that they have a little bit of wiggle room with the community out there on what they pay for water now. I know it'll be an increase, but it's still, to me, it seems like a great price. So I'm gonna be voting for it as well.
Is there any other discussion? Any of those?
just-
Mr. Cobb?
Just one comment. I'm going to vote for it. What really concerns me, and it's just something for us as a commission to keep in mind, jumping from a generalized design and a general plan at a level 1 to final construction is a jump. And just so we keep that in mind as similar circumstances come before us in the future.
Thank you. Any of our commissioners that are attending virtually have anything they would like, comments they would like to make or discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hosey.
I am going to support it. And my reasoning is similar to Mr. Cott's, that if we would have done the level 2, it probably would have flushed this out and we would be at a similar spot with our funding. And I actually applaud, if we believe we can make the jump from 1 to 3, I applaud that process. And so we have to go back and correct an error that was after discovered when we get to level 3. I think that's the right thing to do, so I am going to support.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Chairman.
Commissioner Glick.
I've been on there a while, so I've seen some times where, a lot of times we spend a lot of money on level 2 and where we could have just went to construction. And we've had many years of discussion on this, and it's, I believe it's better to let our engineers and our Wyoming Water Development Office to kind of assist us. They have more boots on the ground type thing. They're out there. They know what they're doing. They can give us the recommendation to go from 1 to 3 or 1 to 2. And I know there was a couple times that we just wanted everybody to follow the 1, 2, 3, and it ended up costing us quite a bit of money that we just wasted on level 2 study. It just ended up, and then we come back, and then we had a big discussion. I think it was in Rock Springs or Green River, and when we were redoing the what do they call them? The supplemental rules, kind of. Is that what it's called?
Mr. Chairman, the criteria?
Yeah. Oh, criteria. Yeah, we were doing the criteria, but this came back round and round. So in the end, we just kind of let the office kind of give us the best recommendation for anything, because we did jump from 1 to 3 a couple times, and we did kind of come back to some issues a little bit, but it did save us money. Sometimes we jumped from a 1 to 3, and it worked out, but I know there was issues. This one here is kind of different than all the other issues that we've had, but it still boils down to the same thing. Do we go from a 1 to a 3 or 1 to a 2? I think we need to let Jason and his crew kind of guide us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glick. Any other discussion? I would just like to comment that in my time on this commission, probably the first 3 years, we rarely went against the office's recommendation. The last couple of years, there's been more than one instance where the office has recommended do not fund. And we have, as a commission, has several times overrode that and funded either in whole or in part something that the office recommended do not fund. Those are the guys with eyes on the budgets and the little bit more information on the dollars available, and possibly some knowledge about the ability of one of our sponsors to actually finish a project without our help. So I think everybody needs to be aware of that as we vote on this today, and times we're in and the money that we have. And I think everyone recognizes that we're all going to have to bear the pain a little bit of this shortage of money. This is a compromise motion that we have in place here. So it's not totally against the office, but it definitely does override the office's recommendation. Just want everyone here to remember that as we move forward. Is there any other discussion concerning this? Commissioner Glick? I believe, based on the discussion, I will just call for a voice vote. If we have, if it's difficult to determine the outcome, then we will call for a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion? Opposed?
No.
No.
I heard 2 no's. We have a full commission, so that would be 8-2. The motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that brings us to other items requiring commission action, which we have none, which would then take us to discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Under discussion, I believe one item that we would like to discuss today is this meeting is Commissioner Glick's final meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I personally would like to thank Commissioner Glick for his service. He was the chair of this commission when I first joined, and he was a very good role model, I would say, in that position. I
you.
learned a lot when he was commissioner, just watching him, when he was chairman, watching him lead the meetings. And it was inspiring. So with that,
Thank you.
Commissioner Glick, thank you for your time. There's a little token of appreciation that I believe the office had put together for you. Director Media, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Glick's been on the commission now for 10 years. He served out a partial term before serving 2 full terms. So we appreciate all his hard work, and he's always very thoughtful with his questions, and just the fact that you're brave enough and willing to ask questions. We appreciate that because that gets more conversation going and helps us be transparent. And it's just, your experience has been invaluable for us that you've brought to the table. So we appreciate that. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Let's give him a hand.
I'd like to say something. I've been on this board a long time, and I learned quite a lot. I was a little shaky when I first got here. I was on other boards and stuff, but this was a major change. I really appreciate the way that the office handles the meetings, the way that they take care of our paperwork, the way that they handle all of our projects from beginning to completion. I made a lot of friends, and I'm going to keep those friends, throughout the years. We've had a big change in the membership since I've started. Old Gerald, he was on here, guys. He was one of the main ones that helped me to learn the appropriate way how to conduct the meetings. He was a big help. He was from Worland, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, he was a good old man. I like that guy. And then I worked with Sheridan Little. He kind of helped me out. There were several other ones that were invaluable to this board over the years. I'm really appreciative that I had the opportunity to work with you all, to be on the commission. And I plan to be around a little bit longer because I'm going to try to run for a representative here in a couple of years. So I hope to come back and see y'all, maybe at a different capacity. So I'd like to thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss?
The only other thing, let me find my papers here, would be tomorrow is the Select Water Committee meeting. We're going to be discussing very similar items with them as we did with you. The 2 omnibus bills, recapping those updates to the recommendations that were tabled, and the UW Water Research Program. But they also have some other things on their agenda. Board of Public Utilities, surface water drainage utilities. I think that was more of a stormwater fee discussion that Laramie was thinking about, and some possible legislation associated with that. They have the voluntary water conservation program legislation that the state engineer's office, you've heard from them several times, I think going back to our August meeting. I think they're trying to finish that draft legislation up. There is an agenda item called Keyhole Reservoir Transfer. And from my little bit of digging on that, I think that might be associated with the lands that surround Keyhole Reservoir. Don't know much more than that. And then the last one is there is a draft bill for destruction of water. It says destruction of water is not beneficial use. And I think that has to do with hydrogen production. But again, don't know too many details about that. So in general, I think their discussion outside of what we talked about today is probably not going to entail Water Development Office or Commission too much, but we tend to get involved in discussion when we don't realize it either. So anyway, just wanted to pass that along to you as far as if you want to stick around for tomorrow, and that starts at 8:30 down at the Capitol Extension, not here. And then other than that, the only other item on our agenda, our future meeting schedule. again, I'm not going to go through that, but March meeting, your next meeting will be March 17th here in Cheyenne. I believe that's when we are looking for a new chairman and electing new positions. So you guys might be thinking about that on the outside a little bit. And the only other thing would be our August tour. And we like to start thinking about that as soon as we can. So if anybody has any ideas, we'd be open to that. If people think that's not invaluable or not valuable and that we shouldn't do an August tour, you can express your opinion on that as well. I try to keep track of where we've been over the years, and we might be due for something up in Water Division 2, which would be the northeast kind of portion of the state. Last year we were in Rock Springs, of course. Year before that we were out in Evanston and Kemmerer, so we were out in Division 4 a couple of years in a row. So I would say Division 2 or maybe 3 would be maybe the best areas. So if you have any ideas, reach out to Barry or myself, and we can start talking about those things. Otherwise, if we don't hear any ideas, we'll try to come up with something on our own and give you more information in March.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask Jason, just if you would, if there is something that comes out of the Select Water Committee that you think that we should know and understand, can you send out a little summary email regarding that? And specifically from my perspective in our district, the Keyhole project. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, I'd be happy to do that. Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? Commissioner Cox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the summer tour and two areas 2 and 3, I guess that's what we were talking about. Forestry has come up as kind of a issue that more and more in our realm, and maybe a tour of some water management with involving forestry. That could be interesting. I'm just throwing out an idea.
He's writing.
I got some.
Clinton?
I know we tried to set it up before, and I think there's, and I know we did right around Worland, Tamaulipas stuff, but I'd like to have everybody come out and see there's Midvale, there's LeClaire, Riverton, there's, and then we got our reservoirs. And then one of the things that, the only reason I wanted to bring this up is because, and then there's Lander and Hudson and stuff. And, we always wanted a master or a regional water system, municipal. It'd be something to look at, something you could go out and check out the area, because we have a lot of agriculture and we have municipal waters. We have a lot of storage. We have the Wind River Canyon. We have quite a bit of stuff right around there. It goes all the way from above the tree line all the way down to high desert area. We have all 4, what are they called?
Environments.
Biomes or
Yeah, biomes. Anyway, we have all 4. But anyway, it's just a suggestion, something you might want to think about. We never did really get there. We tried about 3 or 4 years ago, but we never made it there. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? A motion for adjournment? Motion made and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's meeting adjourned.
Finally something up.